Hello, my name is Garzai Ehsas. I want to first thank Kevin for inviting me to tell my story with Copilot, and hopefully this will help many of you who are in your journey as well. My name is Garzai Ehsas. I'm MVP for Copilot. I work in a company called Advenia in Norway. Here I am responsible for Microsoft and AI and data services. And in my role, it's natural that I get responsibility for stuff such as like implementing Copilot internally. And I'm quite often out there with customers and in the community and evangelize everything around Copilot. So today I will talk about my journey with Copilot, which started over a year ago. I will tell you what mistakes I did. Hopefully, you will avoid them and your journey will be a bit easier. And then at the end, I will go through some of the main co-pilots that I have seen a successful adoption of, and also show you how people use them in their day-to-day life. Yeah, then we'll begin. I've been following OpenAI for nearly the past 7 or 8 years, and I've also been a fan of the technology they develop. That's why it was very exciting for me when I heard first time that Microsoft had introduced some of their AI models in Microsoft 365. So it was early 2023 when Microsoft contacted me and said that, hey, we have developed this tool and we have developed this tool and it will be available for the market soon. At the moment, they only had like 3 companies worldwide who had access to this tool and were part of a very, very early access program. And then they extend this to like 20 of the biggest companies in the world, 20 enterprise customers that got access to this tool and did some testing. And then they extended it even more. And I was part of that um, third extension of the early access program. Uh, and before I really got to see this tool, Microsoft introduced something they called Copilot Stack. This was a few weeks after they openly announced the early access program. This was during build when they showed us this framework. Um, it was a bit confusing because it didn't look as polished as this. And I remember most of the companies in the world had never seen or properly seen how Copilot really looks like. Microsoft was there already introducing a framework for people to either build their own enterprise level AI applications or use finished products such as Copilot. And right after seeing this, I was lucky. We were invited to be part of the early access program Microsoft was running at that time. We were one of 600 companies worldwide who got access to Copilot. It was a paid program where we were supposed to build experience with this tool and eventually help rest of the market adopt this technology as well. So I remember I went to our CEO and said, "Hey, listen, there's this new product that has come out in the market. It is still like very secret. We're not allowed to tell anyone that we are part of this program, but we are allowed to look at the product, build experience, deploy it in our tenant, and when it becomes available for the rest of the market, we can help other companies with their adoption journey." And it was quite funny because I didn't have any business case. I only had the cost, which was quite high. And luckily for me, our CEO said, "Yeah, sure, let's go with this. I trust you," and he gave us the funding. But he was clear. He told me clearly that he did not want any issues with GDPR. And I was, "Yeah, sure, we'll make sure that we're covered there." And what now? I was thinking. We have got the investments, we have gotten access to Copilot. How do we go on from here? Like we are a heavy tech company. I was thinking, do we need to do anything in our tenant? Shouldn't we have control over our data? Can we start using Copilot immediately? Do we need to run any kind of like training? Or can I just give licenses to our architects and they can just train themselves? What about GDPR in case we find some sensitive data and it is not done anything with? So if we find documentation, how do we handle them, sensitive documentation? Do we have rich enough data in our tenant? Have we properly migrated everything from files over to SharePoint? Do we have still data on premise? If we do, will Copilot be useful and valuable? These are some of the questions you might also be thinking about before you start your Copilot journey. So we said, okay, we have run a lot of like adoption trainings. We are a Microsoft house and we do consulting services. So we looked at our history, some of the services we had, and tried to use something we had in place already, because we had helped customers with their adoption journey with like teams and stuff like that. So uh, our CEO clearly did not want us to do like be in a position where we had breached any GDPR rules. So we run a proper assessment phase where for the next 2 months we used Microsoft Purview to do a proper assessment of our tenant, and then we created a report that showed us, okay, listen, we need to do something on our AD Entra. Some work needs to be done in Defender. It is not compliant. Intune looked good. SharePoint is not fully compliant. Same with Teams and Purview. Now we have specific tasks that needs to be done. For example, activating MFA on all users, cleaning up guest users and stuff like that. We spent like 2 months doing that. And then I was like, okay, are we actually done? Is everything covered? Because we should be running with some kind of like framework, and then we need to look in a long term. Cleaning up the tenant in itself is not sufficient. So I remember at that time Microsoft told us, yeah, you should expect 3 to 6 months for a full migration to adoption phase, where after 6 months or 9 months you should be fully adopted to using Copilot. And I cannot emphasize how wrong we were, but we and Microsoft adopting this technology is not that easy. So we made like some kind of like strategy and ground rules to follow. We need to truly understand the possibilities with this technology. The users need to understand this. They need to know how it can help them in their everyday life, or else they will not be using it at all. And then I don't think the best way to approach it is to do a full-blown big bang migration, like giving licenses to hundreds of users at the same time. You need to do gradual rollout. And start with like early champions or adopters. And then you should have arena for where people can share their experiences with it, so others can learn from colleagues. And then another thing we did was to make sure we involve other types of like departments, not only just IT. Make sure you get people from sales, project leader organizations, finance, HR, marketing, etc. Because those are usually the ones that gets most value from this product, not internal IT. And then try to always follow Microsoft best practices in their technologies, such as like just enough access in Azure and Microsoft 365. If you follow that, your cleanup job in a tenant should not be that long either. And as you can see here, we put some timelines, and we're completely off. Like doing like this whole migration project, even for a tech company, this is not enough. You should minimum put like 12 to 24 months, or at least 9 months for cleaning up the tenant and then starting your adoption process, because it will most likely take everything from 12 to 24 months before you are really Copilot ready, and you can start adding other application connectors into Copilot to really get more value of the technology. So we had our framework. We needed We kind of knew what to follow. We did a proper cleanup of our tenant, but we were still not sure, as I mentioned earlier, that we had covered everything. Was really all the documents, for instance, in SharePoint sensitive documentation, really closed down? We were not sure. So I put together a team of like 5 to 6 people, and their mission was clear. For the next weeks, you're gonna try to find as many sensitive documents as you can, and then you can try to use Copilot to find those sensitive documentation as well. And we did that. As you see in the screenshot, this is one of the screenshots I took in September for a presentation I was creating at the time, where I asked a Copilot in business chat to help me find my work contract because I cannot find it. I told him, and then I tried to see if it could find any other documents. It could find documents, but none of them were work contracts, luckily for us, which means that the cleanup we processed with it was actually sufficient. It was good enough, and the assessment we run was good. And even we, a company with really good structure, not any, found documentation that was openly shared, and it should not have. So everyone needs to expect some kind of work, cleanup work that needs to be done as part of your process before you start using the licenses. So I thought, okay, the hardest job was done. The readiness and cleanup of the tenant was done. Now it should be easy, right? No. The real issue, the biggest challenge is actually adoption, trying to adopt the technology. Because what we did was create a Copilot Center for Excellence. We were experienced people and we knew how to run adoption. And here we gave the users simple training, some videos, some text, follow this, and then you will get your license, and then you're good to go. Because I thought one of these guys are like tech people, and they should be going on. Yeah, they should be self-going, and I was quite wrong. Our strategy with trying to get one from each department, like getting champions, early adopters, that was not a problem. The problem was that people were quite busy in their day-to-day life. Even though they are quite technically capable, they get a license, they get some training, and after a couple of weeks, they feel like the product was probably not developed enough. They were not up to their expectations, and they went back to their old habits of doing stuff. And then you will see a huge drop in Copilot usage. And you have done investments, and that's probably not the situation you want to be either. So we said, okay, now we need to do some drastic changes. First, we deployed a champion management platform. This is available for you as an app in Teams Marketplace. Here you can create some tasks for people like, okay, before you get a license and can actively use this, complete these tasks, and then, or trainings. And then when you get a license, you can complete these tasks. When you do complete those tasks, you get to be part of like a champion leaderboard. People who complete most tasks will be high up in the rating, and they will get a digital badge, which can be visible in your Microsoft 365 account next to your picture, or it can be part of your signature in Outlook as well. And in addition to this, those champions, those early adopters can also nominate other colleagues in their teams who they think deserves to have a license, and they could be a good candidate for next part of the group you'll be assigning corporate licenses to. And in addition to that, you can also create tournaments with teams, different departments. We did not do this. I haven't properly tested out tournaments with teams, but I think it's actually worth trying. It could be really good, but it obviously takes some time, and you need to properly plan it for it to be quite good. And in addition to this, we plan continuous training. We put like we set up like half an hour trainings every 2 weeks, like lunch and learn kind of thing, where people got reminded that they had a license. They got some new tips on how to use Copilot, and that in combination with all the other things we did actually helped to increase the usage of Copilot again. And then some of you might be thinking, okay, how do I know that people are actually using Copilot actively? Luckily for us, Microsoft has developed something they called Copilot Dashboard. When it was first introduced, it was just an app in Power BI where you could deploy. You connect it with your tenant. I think you had to be global administrator at that time, and it wanted your tenant ID. And then it started to get data from your tenant and start analyzing how actively people are using the different functionalities in Copilot. This one is this is a screenshot taken from one of the tenants I was working with in February. As you can see, summarization of Teams meeting is actually the most active functionality used in Copilot, followed by summarizing Outlook email threads, then summarization of Word documents, lastly, summarization of team conversations. And this makes sense because summarization of Teams meeting is probably some of the best functionalities in Copilot, which works basically perfectly. I will show you later when I do my demo how it actually looks, because I'm actually in a Teams meeting now, and I have started the transcription, and I will show you the functionalities live. But I remember when I looked at this chart the next month in March, I could see that summarization of Word document was actually second, and summarization of Outlook email threads was third. So you can actively see how well your trainings are doing. You can actively see how, yeah, if your adoption is going the right way or not. In addition to this, this dashboard can help you create that business case as well. If you, the leadership in a company wants to know if whether this investment is worth it or not, here we can see how many hours you have saved based on the activity usage in your company. So this helped me give me the data I needed when I went back to the leadership in my company and asked them for more money to buy even more Copilot licenses, because it's much easier to do a business case when you have proper numbers, right? So now that I've talked a little bit about my experience and the best practices I followed, I will now go over to show you some of the functionalities in the different Copilots. Basically, the functionalities that are most actively used during the projects I've run, the most actively and successfully used. And you need to understand not all of the functionalities are as good as the others. That's why some of the functionalities are more actively used. We'll start with Word. This functionality is actually quite often used by sales organizations, because salespeople are often involved in like huge bid processes. I'm sometimes invited into sales processes, and I know how heavy it can be sitting like months and months and try to look at hundreds of requirements from customers when you are in a RFP process, request for proposal, where you see at every requirement the customer has, and you have to look at your services and try to answer them to win a big sales case, right? And sitting all those evenings and weekends to try to finish, you always have a very short deadline as well. So by using Copilot in Teams, you can actually, let's see if I can find the Word document template I can use here. This is how Copilot in Word looks like. So you will have the Copilot button up to the right here. Just pressing it, and then you can chat with Copilot in this window if you'd like, or you could just press the Copilot button here, and then you can ask Copilot to create a sales contract for a company selling IT services. Just as simple as that. You can also, if you want, give references, but you don't have to. And then you just press generate, and as you see, it just takes seconds, and it will basically give you a starter template for a document. So working in Word documents has become much more efficient with this AI tool. So it will start with when the contract is made, which is 6th of June. This is when I am recording this presentation. It will give a list of definitions, which is quite professional. The services, price and payment. It just gives you some example of the currency, because I live in Norway. It gives me the currency in Norwegian. So the AI tool is quite smart as well. And then term and termination as well. So soon you will maybe not need any lawyers at all. I'm just joking. And then general provisions. Very, very cool, right? And if you're not happy, you can always try to ask it to generate it again, or change this, or even do translations. So imagine if you work in a huge document and you write a lot, you don't have to run between Google Translate and your Word document anymore. You can just ask Copilot to do those stuff for you, summarize big documents or translate, etc. As you see, it goes quite fast as well. So that was the Word one. Let's go to the next. Copilot in PowerPoint. I have personally been waiting mostly on the functionalities on this Copilot, because I'm quite often out there with companies or communities talking about Microsoft technology, and sitting and working on PowerPoint presentation. It can be quite time consuming for me. So when I heard that Microsoft was creating a AI tool that will help me create presentations, I must say I was quite impressed and very happy to hear. Let's see if I can find the presentation. I'm just taking a clean PowerPoint presentation with no text inside, just to show you how good this Copilot has become. So here as well, in PowerPoint, you will have the Copilot button up to the right here. You just press on it and you will get that chat window as well. Here you can basically think that you're talking to ChatGPT, right? I can ask it to create a presentation from a file, or I can ask it to just create a slide. That's probably not that impressive. Or I can just ask it to create a presentation about Norway. That's quite open question as well, right? So let's see if it can create a good presentation and structure it in a good way. Let's see. It just takes a few seconds. Just give it some time. It is still thinking, working on it. Now it has created. So as you see, it starts the presentation with talking about the Northern Lights and the nature in Norway, which is quite impressive, because that's often what Norway is known about for as well. So it talks about the natural wonders of Norway, Viking heritage, spot on top attractions. Yeah, we have the fjords, the waterfalls, our cultural journey, Viking heritage, arts and craft, woodcrafting, knitting. Yeah, quite spot on. Oh yes, that's actually quite good. And a conclusion. As you can see, I didn't have to do anything. It structured the whole presentation to me. This will have taken me hours to do with research and putting. I would have probably not made this good of a presentation on my own either. So this was the PowerPoint Copilot. Let's move on to the next. Next one is Copilot in Excel. I have a degree in finance, and I never got time, to be honest, to get a proper introduction to Excel during my studies. So I never learned Excel or use it properly. So I was quite happy to hear that Microsoft had developed an AI tool that could basically help me in Excel. So what you need to know here is that you need to have some kind of like a table for Copilot to analyze. So luckily for me, I can have like I can start with an example table. So I forgot to mention to find the Copilot, it's the same spot everywhere, up to the right here. Then I'll just press try an example table. Here it shows me just like a simple table with data. So I will ask him now to maybe show me some data insights. Let's see. No, it did not. Let's see if we try again. It usually works and it goes quite fast, but it actually might be updating something, so it's not coming with anything. Let's try something else. I usually prefer using some of the finished commands here because they are quite fast too, and usually what you look for as well. So here I just asked it to show me a suggestion for a formula in the column, and give me another column suggestion, etc. Yeah. Now I asked him to change the topic. Let's see if it can show me the data insights now. Because I really like the data insights functionality. It creates really cool charts for you quite fast. You see here? So this in itself maybe it's not impressive, but if I ask him to add all insights to grid, then it starts to look quite good. As you see here, so it shows me revenue by launch date, total users targeted by campaign type, budget, etc. And even creates a pivot table source for the charts. Quite impressive. Okay, that was the Excel one. Let's move on to Copilot in Outlook. This is one of the most widely used functionalities as well. So for Copilot in Outlook, you can imagine if you come to work one day and then you have gotten like email from a colleague. This has been forwarded to you and it's like email thread with like 50 emails going back and forth. And instead of like spending hours reading through all the emails, you can just press on a summarization button and Copilot will read all the emails for you and give you a summary. So here I sent myself just like a screenshot of a news article from Norway where flight has been cancelled and it's been delayed. So I just open the email and press on summary. Then the Copilot will scan the email for me and give me like high level summary of what the email thread is about. So it's like there's an imminent risk of strike among aircraft technicians, etc., etc. Now I can, if I want, I can reply with a Copilot as well. So the Copilot will basically give me a draft. I will ask them to say something around like, thank you for the email. And let's see what it can generate as a response, a reply for me. So you can see it was quite fast, right? And it says that thank you for your email and for providing the information about the possible travel chaos due to potential strike among flight technicians. I appreciate keeping me informed about the current situation, which is quite good. And if I'm not happy, I can ask him to regenerate and give me another reply. And just press keep it and you press send. And before you send, it will also ask you to check what the Copilot has written, because it's an AI, right? It can make mistakes. So this is quite important as well. Good. Then that was the Outlook one. Let's move on to the Copilot in Teams. This is one of the probably the most popular functionalities in Teams. This is very helpful for people who sit in online meetings day in and day out. Imagine you work as a project leader And every meeting you have with a customer, they expect you to send some kind of like summarization from the Teams meeting with action points. And that is time consuming, especially if you have like 10 meetings, Copilot, like Teams meetings in a day. So what I do here is I open the Teams meeting, then you will have the Copilot button here. Open the Copilot chat window, and here you have some finished prompts, such as like recap meeting so far. Just one simple, quick command line. It will give you a summary of the meeting, what has been discussed, and like the key topics. Like here it says that I talk about my journey with Copilot functionalities, questions and feedback, and now I can ask it to give me a list of action points as well. And obviously we didn't have any action points in this case, but it is usually very spot on, and it's quite easy to send this to your team members, people who has been part of that meeting. You just press copy and just send it in email if you would like. I always send this after my meetings, and my meetings become much more efficient as well. Then I want to show you something called business chat. Business chat is actually the reasons people are scared of using Copilot, and they want to clean up their tenant before they run this into production. So here, imagine you come to work. The first thing you do is, instead of like opening Outlook, you just open business chat in Teams, and you can ask it to recap any meetings you had from yesterday, or generate any ideas, or it can also read all your emails for you and give you a summarization of the emails that has come that morning. Or you can just catch up on a meeting you had last day, or emails, chats, etc. So you have some finished prompts, and here you can also create your own prompts when you use Copilot Studio, or here you can publish it so your colleagues can also start using it. So I can start maybe brainstorming on based on I just ask it to suggest 10 compelling titles based on Copilot 365. And it will basically generate that. So I obviously cannot show you some of that because it will start reading my own email. And I don't want my email to be leaked out to the internet. So that's all I had as part of my presentation today. I hope that this has been useful. Do connect with me on LinkedIn, and do tell me if there's something else you would have liked to know, or you have any questions. I will happily help answer those questions. That's all I had. Thank you.